going on, guys? Welcome back to the after credit scene. It's good to see you. Before we get going, please like and subscribe to the channel. We are on our way to 200 subscribers, but we need your help to do it. Also, if you are not wanting any spoilers, we're going to start off with some spoiler-free reviews, but check the description below because you can jump ahead to the eggs. You can jump ahead of all the different comments and reviews and all the different things that we got going on in this video. You can find the stuff that you really want to talk about, you really want to hear about, and then share this video all across the multiverse and join us in the comments to tell us what you thought about the movie. Spoiler-free review of Wakanda Forever. This movie I thought was fantastic. Hands down the best entry in Phase 4 and an amazing way to end Phase 4 of the MCU. Visually stunning, actually takes the MCU forward, broadens the scope of the MCU, introduces new characters, has plenty of time for character development. The antagonist, I won't say villain, but antagonist in this story was fantastic. The beats and it keeping your attention, excellent. Fantastic movie. It is a longer movie, but it was fantastic. And the after credit scene, which is a mid-credit scene, there is no anything after the credits, was fantastic. And all the beats throughout the movie, I think, did Chadwick Boseman plenty of justice. I know that was a hot topic of concern. Did the characters justice, did the plot and the MCU justice. I think it fit in very well, and it did a lot of really awesome things, and none of it felt forced. There were a lot of very emotional moments. The cinematography, unbelievable. The writing, fantastic, and the costumes and the design, phenomenal. I can't say enough good things about this movie. Just got done watching it. It was amazing. That's it for our spoiler-free review. Go see it. It was fantastic. I will go see it probably a couple more times, but just to digest the whole thing. It was fantastic. It is a very emotional watch, but it has great action sequences and great dialogue and great drama, and it's all blended together very, very well. None of it felt cliche or heavy-handed at all. So let's dive right in to the spoiler portion of this review. We're just going to go through it beat by beat, go through the movie beat by beat. So if you haven't seen it yet, come back later. The beginning, right off the bat, with addressing T'Challa's death and addressing the absence of Chadwick Boseman. I thought they did some really good things by, one, not talking about his cancer and actually using his wishes as a plot point for this movie. That being that not very many people knew that Chadwick Boseman had cancer of any kind or that he was struggling. And I think they honored that and honored his spirit with the character and the plot point in this movie, that you don't really find out what he's got, what's going on, and the fact that he didn't tell people was something within the movie. A lot of the story definitely centers around Shuri, but it centers around a lot of different people and how they cope with not just T'Challa's death, but how they deal with this changing world and finding their place in it. I thought they did a good job, while we're talking about it, of giving a year flash forward when it came to the events of Wakanda, what was going on in Wakanda and T'Challa's death, and then what's been going on in the geopolitical landscape in that year time frame, rather than just introducing a new villain or a new problem immediately after Chadwick Boseman dies. It's, T'Challa dies, it's, we'll have his funeral and then here's the new bad guy, and now we've addressed it. Giving it some time to breathe in the MCU, I thought was really great, and just saying, hey, there's been a year time frame and some things have changed. I thought it didn't really need to happen, but I thought it was a really good addition to the plot to really kind of stretch this thing out and understand that a lot has been going on, and they didn't tarnish, even in universe, they didn't tarnish Chadwick Boseman or the character of T'Challa by just jumping to the next bad guy as soon as he was gone. you get a hint that Shuri was working on some kind of synthetic heart-shaped herb to be able to replace what Killmonger burned up, and she's had very little success doing it, and that's a plot point that comes back up later on. The funeral in the movie really did feel like a funeral for Chadwick Boseman, and I can't help but imagine that there was very little acting going on in those scenes. When you are laying to rest a character that someone has played and embodied so well, so quickly, that means so much to so many people, it was probably very easy to get yourself there emotionally. And I thought it was done very well, and that the imagery and the different cultural aspects that they flowed through these scenes was very great, and was very, very good. And I won't say icing on the cake, but the part that hit me the hardest was the silent Marvel intro that was nothing but Chadwick Boseman pictures and moments and all those kind of things. It was almost like Marvel was giving Chadwick Boseman his own moment of silence in this movie. And there are several other times where, as amazing as the soundtrack is, they utilize silence in a very, very emotionally charged way, and they do it very well to where moments really hang and you feel the weight of certain lines. A couple of different little things to notice. When the Talokans show up, let me rephrase that. They are not Talokans. Namor refers to them as the Talokanil, so that's their given name. So that's what we will call them. So when the Talokanil show up in the Atlantic Ocean and they find this vibranium sensing machine, they throw out a siren call that ends up, and they call it sonar hypnosis or auditory hypnosis later on, but it is similar to a siren call. And I thought it was really cool to not have to really explain it, but just for you to understand that this was the MCU's way of acknowledging that there are some myths and some legends that pop up in our culture that are explained in the MCU as supernatural superhero powers. And so the siren calls, and then the battle there, making the Talokanil seem very, very menacing. And a lot of those scenes were very dark, and you didn't get a full reveal of Namor. He seemed like a very menacing character in those scenes, and it played into the plot as well, because you needed to believe, and the characters in the universe needed to believe that these were Wakandans doing these things. They didn't know who these other people were, and they operate in secret and in silence, and nobody knows who they are because they're trying to maintain their anonymity. Was a big theme throughout the movie, and it's not until Namor chooses to reveal himself that you see him in all his glory. Amazing job by the actor that played Namor. I'm not even going to try to say his name and butcher it, but he did an amazing job, and I can't wait to see more of him in the future. Getting to see Everett Ross again, and his connection with Valentina, and finding out that they were married was a hilarious little twist. And I was not expecting to see Julia Louis-Dreyfus's character pop up in this movie, and I thought they actually utilized her very well, and they established her as a presence, a working presence within the MCU. When we get introduced to Riri Williams, you get to see her at Cambridge and helping people at MIT and doing people's homework for them and doing all these different things. She's a prodigy. She is doing things and creating things that the CIA is using her technology, and she's helping out students with their work, and she's also creating her own suits and all these different things in her own way, and that's going to be explored a lot more in the Ironheart series. But I thought they utilized her very well. It was a very good introduction to her, and it made a lot of sense to use her in those ways and bring her into the fold. I thought Letitia Wright held her own very well as the focal point of this movie, especially up against characters like, actors like Angela Bassett and Denai Guerrera and just all these different characters that she comes up against, these actors and actresses that she's performing opposite of. She held her own very, very well in those scenes, and it didn't feel like a fish out of water, pardon the pun, but it was very good. As the story unfolds, and you know that Namor has ulterior motives and he's got his own way of doing things, I started getting worried that it was going to feel very Killmonger-esque. As much as Killmonger was a great villain and a great character and played very well, some of his motives, especially in the third act of the first Black Panther movie, felt very cliche, and nothing about Namor felt cliche at all. I loved how they introduced him with a backstory that played right into how Shuri became Black Panther again, with the different plant that was used to create the Talokanil people, and how Namor was born and how he got his namesake. That whenever they arrived back on dry land to bury his mother, that the colonizers and the Spaniards that had showed up and were enslaving people were, in fact, that one of the priests or whoever was there ended up calling him a child without love, and he just kind of takes it as his own moniker. It was El Niño Sin Namor, and he takes that last syllable there, Namor, and calls himself that, and everybody picks up on it. And so it kind of reminds him of where he came from, and that undercurrent of knowing where you came from and honoring your ancestors and becoming your own man really played well, not only with what happened to Chadwick Boseman, but the way that these characters responded to it, and Shuri taking on that mantle was very well written. But the backstory with the Mayan culture and connecting those things was excellent. And then planting that seed, no pun intended again, with the blue plant that allowed Namor to have his powers, being utilized as the thing that helps Shuri recreate the heart-shaped herb so that she can then take on the mantle of Black Panther. In Namor's story, he drops the word mutant, and as of this point, he is the first named mutant. We're not going to count Miss Marvel for multiple reasons, the least of which is that the word mutation is used, and not actually, that there's some kind of mutation in your blood, Kamala, but doesn't actually call her a mutant. And Namor says he was a mutant, and wears that moniker proudly. And I thought, looking back on it, for somebody to use that phrase and connect it and own it like he owned the name that was given to him was fantastic. It's okay. You want to call me that? Yeah, I'm different. I'm a mutant, whatever. But utilizing that, and that also means that if he's been around since 1571, he is the oldest mutant in the MCU that we know of right now, and but he is also still in secret. And so I thought it fit his character very well, and I thought the way they did it was awesome. And it was, again, this heavy MCU comic book moment right in the middle of this story was really great. The conversations and the interactions between Shuri and Namor while she is captive and she goes to Talokan to visit the city and see it, and she understands, she gets to see the beauty of his empire and those kind of things. I thought that was really great. And the conversations they have together, and Shuri asking Namor, why did my ancestors do this? Why don't I see this like this? And she's reaching out for something that is as close to an ancestor she can find, because Namor's been around for several hundred years. And it would be a perfect moment for a cliche line from some anciently wise character. And they didn't go for that, and I loved it. She says, why did my ancestors do this? Why did this happen? What's going on? And he just says, I don't know. I think that fits the idea of grief and anger and frustration a lot better than here's some magic phrase that's going to make it all right. Sometimes you need to just come to terms with this is the world I live in now. And I thought they handled grief and mourning very well in this movie, and those characters were just very well done. The battle kind of ensues where Ramonda lures Namor away. Nakia comes in and rescues Riri and Shuri, and they go back to Wakanda, which triggers this battle between Wakanda and Talokan. In the midst of all that, obviously, Queen Ramonda dies, and there's a funeral there as well, and it fuels Shuri's anger in a way that her brother dying did not, and forces her to do the things that she didn't want to do to disrespect her brother, that being becoming Black Panther because she didn't feel like she could handle it, and then deciding to become Black Panther in order to avenge her mother's death because she's so angry, where she tried mercy, she tried diplomacy, and it didn't work, and now she's out for revenge. And because of that, when she takes the heart-shaped herb and she sees Killmonger in her ancestral plane vision, which was not expecting, but a fantastic way to bring him back, was an amazing conversation, and her trying to decide, who do I want to be, and Killmonger getting this moment to justify what he did, and to actually, it almost seems blasphemous that he is in the Wakandan ancestral plane, although it makes sense because he was a king of Wakanda temporarily, and he did take the heart-shaped herb and all those different things, but Shuri gets to confront him, and that exchange fuels what happens in the third act, but Shuri gets to have this redemptive moment that I thought was really well done. As Shuri wakes up and she's unwilling to tell people, because she's still wrestling with it, she's unwilling to tell people who she saw in the ancestral plane. She's wrestling with the fact that she didn't believe in the ancestral plane before, and not only did she get to see it, but she saw somebody there that didn't fit with her morality. Is wrestling with that, and she jumps over picking her brother's style of helmet in favor of one that has some Jaguar elements to it, some Killmonger elements to it, and some Black Panther elements to it, and then as she fights, having to decide, am I going to show mercy? Am I going to kill him? Am I going to be violent? I liked that they used the positives about the not the violence, but the aggression that Killmonger portrayed as something that is not a bad thing, but where you aim it and what you do with it makes all the difference. And Shuri having to realize that and not allowing herself to die, but pushing ahead, and then using that aggression to win the fight, but then appealing to her better side and her brother's wishes and what her mother would want for her was a much better twist and a complete story arc when she allows Namor to live. She says yield, and she realizes that in order for me to win, I have to be the destroying force for his world, just like he was the destroying force for my world. And somebody has to be the one to offer grace and mercy. Somebody has to be. But I'm not going to be the one that destroys your kingdom. You're going to be the one that does that. And all of the different pieces and the elements, the advice that she was getting from M'Baku, which was an excellent dynamic. And I loved him coming in and asking her questions after her mother's death about, where's your head telling you to go? Where's your heart telling you to go? All those different elements were really well done and really well written. And then as Shuri is deciding whether or not to kill Namor, this thread that I had heard but did not think would come to completion. Over and over again, Shuri says, I need to fix it. I need to fix it. I can fix my brother. I can fix this situation. I can fix the hole in the ship before it explodes and drowns us all. She's trying to fix everything. And in her anger to kill Namor, to avenge her mother, she has this moment where you can see, if I fix things, because it's rewinding everything. If I kill him, then it's like he never existed. He wasn't there. He didn't destroy my home. All of this gets better. But she realizes that in order to fix my world, I have to break theirs. And she stops. She realizes that I will become the thing that I'm trying to destroy, which is exactly what Namor has become, which is exactly what Killmonger became. And it's something that we all have to battle our inner demons, to rise above the problems that we see and not become the problem ourselves. I thought it was a really great way to wrap all those things up, and it brought all those threads together very, very well. I was excited to see Riri's suit and see her kind of ascend into her Ironheart character. But, you know, you can say it was a plot point that, well, she only had a week to figure it out, and she was using Wakandan tech, so it's not really hers, blah, 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 blah. Just from a movie standpoint, I was not as impressed with Riri Williams' suit as I thought I would be. But the style of suit and the character and all those different elements made me excited to see what her Mark II, Mark III, Mark IV suits are going to become. It was really cool, and she was her own character. I did not feel like they were trying to rip off Tony Stark or that they were sullying his memory somehow. It just felt like another chapter. It felt like a new piece, but it was good to hear the repulsor sound again. You know, there's all of those Iron Man associated sound effects and different things was really cool to see them on screen again, and it felt like a new phase. So that's going to be exciting, especially for her Ironheart series that's coming out. As Shuri is about to kill Namor as well, she drops the line, "Vengeance has consumed us," which is actually a line that T'Challa drops on Baron Zemo when he stops Baron Zemo from killing himself at the end of Civil War. While Tony and Steve Rogers are battling it out, and Zemo thinks he's won and he's finishing his plan, and he's going to kill himself and be done with it. T'Challa stops him and says, "Vengeance has consumed you. It's consuming them, but it will not consume me any longer." And he chooses to let go of it and save the person that killed his father. And he gets flack for it. He gets flack for it from some Wakandan elders on the council, and they bring that up. But Shuri has to wrestle with that and has to decide, look, it's what's best for our people, and I have to be this example, because we can either be all about vengeance, or I can set a better example. And so, again, all of those things, very excellent. Let's throw out some Easter eggs and talk about the Easter eggs before we get to that end credit scene, because I want to wrap up with that. So, Easter eggs, just a few little Easter eggs. Obviously, the Marvel logo, the silent Marvel logo with the Chadwick Boseman and T'Challa video clips was excellent. It's kind of a blink and you'll miss it thing, but when Ramonda is addressing the UN or whatever that council is, they show some French soldiers attacking a Wakandan outreach facility, and it says that it is in Namibia, I think. It's in Africa someplace. But the thing I want to point out as an Easter egg is that these Wakandan outreach facilities are now worldwide. The first one was in Oakland, and it was opened by T'Challa and run by Shuri. And the rest of them, presumably in the last 6 to 7 years, have grown and are now worldwide because other people are making reference to them as well. And so all these things are out there, but Wakandan outreach facilities are there. Obviously, Everett Ross and Allegra Valentina being married at some point. That was more of a story that I want to get. I would love a short that gives me some backstory on what that relationship looked like. But that was great. The name of Shuri's AI, Griot, is actually the name of what Africans, or at least West Africans, would call a storyteller or a historian in their village. It's somebody that kept track of, stories and family trees and all the information for a village. And those storytellers, those griots, are still, at least in name, a type of storyteller and memory keeper for different villages and communities throughout Africa. And so using that as the name of the AI as something that is an eternal data keeper is really clever. Riri drops the name of 3 different Disney properties when she is trying to keep Shuri from going and interacting with Namor. She says, this is super villain stuff. Don't do this. Don't put on this costume. Did you forget about Princess Leia? Did you forget about Beauty and the Beast, Belle and Beauty and the Beast, or that white lady in Indiana Jones? All of those stories, and I'm going to make some people sad, all of those stories, as far as the MCU is concerned, are now movies within the MCU, which means, sorry, Star Wars fans, at least in the canon, according to Ryan Coogler and Black Panther, Star Wars is a movie and not something that can have some kind of crossover in the future. So, hate to burst your bubble on that one, but they named it as a movie and not as something in real life. So in the MCU, Star Wars is definitely a movie. Obviously, Namor calling himself a mutant is a big deal. And then the Jeep that drops Shuri off in Haiti at Nakia's house has a license plate that says CB 112976, which is Chadwick Boseman's birthday. And so I thought, again, that was a nice little homage to Chadwick Boseman, and I thought that was fantastic as well. Probably several other Easter eggs in there that I missed. If you caught a few, drop them in the comments. Obviously, her Wakandan, her Black Panther suit had a few elements of Killmonger and a few elements of Black Panther, and there's probably tons of other things in there, including characters that just got a few little scenes. And I'm sure with all the extras, there was probably the son or the brother of somebody, or the director made an appearance or something like that you're going to find out later on was thrown in there as well. But all those things were really excellent. I loved all those things. It was very, very cool. Let's talk about the end credits scene. There was only one. Obviously, there's rumors that there was going to be a Doctor Doom end credit scene, not a mid credit scene, but an end credit scene. I'm glad they didn't do that. I think it's too soon for Doctor Doom. I think you need to focus on Kang and do all these other things and build this up before you introduce Doom in any way, shape, or form. But having this mid credit scene was excellent. Now, before the mid credit scene, at the end of the movie, you get Shuri burning her funeral clothes as a way to signal that her mourning is over. And then the credits before the mid-credit scene, before the scrolling credits, were shot over burning funeral clothes, which to me really felt like a way for the MCU and Ryan Coogler and others to say, okay, now we're ending our mourning period. This movie was our tribute to our friend, and for you, the fans, this is a way to bring it full circle, and this is the end. We're mourning Chadwick Boseman, and then the end credit scene, the mid credit scene, is blazing a path forward. With the way the scene starts, I thought Namor was going to pop up out of the ocean, but it pans around, and you see that Nakia has a son, and it didn't take long for me to realize that kid only looks like he's about 6 or 7 years old, and realized that Nakia and T'Challa had a son, and Shuri obviously has some questions, but it answers a lot of questions about why Nakia wasn't at the funeral, why she didn't want to come back for these things, why she disappeared and hid for several years, and all the different things that went along with that. And then the conversation about his name and what it means, and Shuri being able to keep a secret, and him revealing that his name, not only does he know how to speak Zoshi, which is the Wakandan language, but his name is in Haitian is Toussaint, but his name in Wakandan is T'Challa, which means somewhere down the line we can have Shuri be Black Panther, she can be the Queen of Wakanda. All those things can go on. We can have those beats, and at some point, T'Challa can then take over the mantle of Black Panther again, and they can use a new T'Challa that is not a recast, but is still T'Challa and honors the comic books and brings the character forward. I thought was a very fitting way, not only to honor Chadwick Boseman, but to honor the character and still move it forward. And I'm sure that was a very hard secret to keep because Ryan Coogler and Marvel and everybody else has been getting blasted for months and months and years. Why don't you recast Chadwick Boseman? And I hope this satisfies some people because it's going to make a bigger impact when this version of T'Challa grows up and he takes on the mantle of Black Panther and is able to make comments about his father, or people talk about his father, and it's going to mean more. And it's going to have some depth to it that wouldn't have been there before if you just recast him. And so from that standpoint, they made the absolute right decision, and they didn't throw it in your face. Now, certain shows like She-Hulk intentionally throw things in your face because they're trolling the trolls. But this was not that. This was, we're going to honor our friend, and we're going to do this the right way, and we're not going to listen to the haters. And it is what it is, and you need to just, again, like the funeral clothes on fire would signify, you need to move on. And so I thought all of those things were fantastic. I cannot wait to see what they do with this story and these characters moving forward. It was fantastic. If this does not win some kind of Oscar, at least for costume design or cinematography, there is a gross injustice within the Hollywood foreign press and everybody else, because this was fantastic. I can't say enough good things about it. Can't wait to go see it again. Tell us what you guys thought about it. Tell us in the comments. Share this video, like and subscribe to our channel. Do all the things to help us out and to be a part of the conversation. And check out some of our other content. We got tons of things you can sink your teeth into. And as always, guys, when the next one drops, we'll catch you right back here. Later.